What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to episode 10 of our massive 25-part masterclass series on bringing 2D hand-painted digital illustrations to life in a fully animated 3D space. First of all, a massive congratulations is in order. If you have been with me for the last 4 hours of this specific project, you have built something truly spectacular. We started with a completely blank canvas in episode 6, painted our assets, modeled our low-poly watermill and foliage layers in episode 7, built custom flow maps and wind animations in episode 8, and just finished our stylized water splashes and volumetric forest lighting in episode 9. Your viewport should look like a living, breathing work of art right now. If you are just joining us for this masterclass and want to learn how to composite, color grade, and render out gorgeous stylized 3D environments, you are in the perfect spot. You can jump back to any of the previous episodes to download our prepped file so you can follow along with today's master export phase. But if you have your animated, lit, and water splash forest ready to go, let's get down to business today. We are spending our final full hour on this project mastering the art of stylized cinematography and final compositing in 3D animation. Your camera is not just a tool to capture the scene, it is your ultimate storytelling device. If your camera moves too fast, too mechanically, or with the wrong perspective, the illusion of your hand-painted style will instantly shatter. Over the next 60 minutes, we are going to set up a sweeping cinematic camera path, apply painterly depth of field to guide the viewer's eye, build an advanced post-processing compositing tree to color grade our scene, and set up our render engine to output a flawless professional video file. Grab your drinks, open up your project, and let's cross the finish line of our second major project together. All right, looking at our viewport right now at the 3:15 mark, we are dropping in our primary cinematic camera. Before we animate even a single frame of movement, we have to talk about lens choice. By default, most 3D software cameras are set to a wide-angle focal length like 35 millimeters. If you keep your camera there, the wide lens is going to distort the outer edges of your forest, making your hand-painted trees and water look stretched out of perspective. This immediately tells the viewer's brain that they are looking at a virtual 3D environment, destroying the flat, illustrative charm we work so hard to preserve. Watch my screen as I change our camera's focal length to a cinematic 85 millimeters lens. An 85 millimeters lens compresses the depth of our scene. It physically pulls our distant, cool-toned background forest closer to our warm illuminated watermill house, flattening the perspective just enough to maintain that cozy, hand-drawn illustration aesthetic even while the camera is in motion. At the 8:45 mark, you can see me setting up our camera path to get a perfectly smooth, cinematic sweep without any of that jerky, robotic hand keyframe movement. We are going to use a path constraint. I am adding a Bezier curve directly into the 3D space, drawing a gentle, rising arc that starts from a low angle foreground position, peeking through the rustling leaves and slowly orbits the spinning water wheel. Now, watch closely as I apply a follow path constraint to our camera to keep our camera focused squarely on the watermill house as it travels along this path. I am dropping a simple empty object right at the center of the house's stone foundation and applying a track to constraint to the camera, targeting that empty. Look at how smoothly the camera glides when I play the timeline. It is incredibly stable, and the composition remains perfectly balanced throughout the entire path. If your camera path is feeling too rigid, or if your tracking constraint is causing your camera to tilt or flip upside down when it reaches the peak of your Bezier curve, do not panic. You can jump directly to the 14:30 mark of this video where I show you a quick 2-click trick to lock your cameras up, vector and smooth out your curve interpolation handles for a buttery smooth cinematic motion. Let's push forward to the 18:15 mark. This is where we configure our depth of field, which is one of the most powerful tools in our artistic arsenal. In traditional painting, an illustrator uses soft, blurry brush strokes to draw attention to the main subject. In 3D, we can do this dynamically. Watch as I enable depth of field in our camera properties and set our focus distance target directly to the empty object we placed on our watermill house. Now, look at the f-stop value. If you set the f-stop too low, like 0.8, the blur will be so intense that our beautiful hand-painted textures will turn into a smeared digital mess. We want a soft, natural fall-off. I am setting the f-stop to a cinematic 2.8. Look at our viewport right now. The dangling hand-painted leaves in the extreme foreground are beautifully out of focus, acting as a soft framing vignette. The watermill house, the spinning wheel, and our rising mist are tack sharp, and our background forest dissolves into a dreamy, painterly haze. It looks incredibly professional and instantly guides the viewer's eye exactly where we want it. Let's move ahead to the 26:40 mark. We are entering our advanced post-processing and compositing phase. Right now, Our render looks technically correct, but the colors don't quite capture the rich emotional contrast of our original 2D illustration. This is where the compositing editor comes in to tie everything together. Watch my screen as I open up our compositor and enable our render nodes. We are going to build a customized, non-destructive post-processing pipeline. First, to emphasize our warm, glowing lantern light and our golden sun rays, I am adding a glare node. We set it to a soft fog glow setting with a low threshold. Look at how the light changes on the screen. The warm highlights on the Watermill roof and the glistening water droplets suddenly have this gorgeous painterly bloom, making the light feel like it is literally bleeding into the cool, dark air of the surrounding forest. To balance this, at the 35 to 15 mark, we are adding a color balance node to grade our final colors. I want to build a classic complementary color scheme. I am grabbing our shadow wheel and pushing the dark tones slightly into a deep, mysterious indigo blue. This preserves our painted shadows and keeps them cool. I am pushing our midtones and highlights toward a warm, honey golden tone. This creates a striking color contrast that makes our warm light shafts absolutely pop against the cool forest backdrop. Now, look at the 41 to 20 mark. We are adding a tiny touch of lens distortion, setting the value to just 0.01. This adds a subtle chromatic aberration around the outer edges of our frame, slightly dispersing the red and blue channels of our light. It is a very minor detail, but it mimics the behavior of a real physical camera lens, taking away that perfect sterile digital look and replacing it with a soft, cinematic, filmic quality. If you want to skip the tedious process of building this entire compositing node tree from scratch and just use my custom stylized presets to get this exact look instantly, you can jump over to the 46 to 15 mark of this video or click the download link in the description below to grab the exact node layout for free. We are passing the 49 to 30 mark, and we need to lock down our final render and export settings. This is where a lot of digital artists stumble. They spend hours crafting a beautiful piece of art, only to export it with poor compression settings that turn their beautiful, hand-painted brushstrokes and delicate mist particles into blocky, pixelated artifacts. Watch closely as I set up our final render engine output. We are choosing our resolution, which is a crisp, cinematic 1920 by 1080. We set our frame range from frame 1 to 240, giving us a perfect 10-second animation loop. Next, under the file output settings, we select the FFmpeg video container and change our video codec to H.264 for the output quality. Instead of choosing medium, we are going to select perceptually lossless. This ensures that every single hand-painted texture detail, every soft volumetric light ray, and every delicate rising mist particle remains incredibly sharp when you upload your work online. At the 3 o'clock mark, we are running a quick optimization sweep. If you hit render right now and find that your volumetrics look incredibly noisy or blocky, do not panic. I am walking you through how to adjust your volumetric tile size from 8 pixels down to 4 pixels, turn on viewport denoising, and set up light clamping to eliminate any unwanted fireflies or render noise. We are entering the final stretch of today's video right around the 7 o'clock mark. Our final sequence is rendering out frame by frame. Let's sit back, watch our completed masterpiece together, and appreciate the incredible journey we have taken over these last 5 episodes. Look at the final result on your screen right now. It is absolutely breathtaking. We have our mystical river rushing around our mossy rocks, our massive wooden wheels spinning with physical weight, stylized hand-drawn splashes bursting into the air, delicate mist rising from the water, and warm golden god rays cutting beautifully through our rustling forest canopy. It is a complete living painting. You have successfully taken a flat 2-dimensional illustration and transformed it into a fully animated, cinematic 3D masterpiece. This brings us to the end of our second major project and episode 10 of our series. Thank you so much for your incredible dedication, your creativity, and for spending these hours building with me. But our Masterclass series is far from over. We have mastered floating whimsical islands, and we have conquered organic animated forests. Next, we need to push our skills into the future. In our next project block, we are shifting styles entirely. In episode 11, we are diving into a vibrant, rain-slicked, stylized cyberpunk alleyway. We are going to learn how to paint and model glowing neon signs, wet asphalt reflections, moving mechanical wires, and dark, industrial hard surface environments. If you are ready to master the futuristic world of stylized cyberpunk projection, you can jump directly to the next video right now. Keep practicing, keep painting, and I will see you in the next episode. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 11 of our massive 25-part masterclass series on bringing 2D hand-painted digital illustrations to life in a fully animated 3D space. If you spent the last 5 episodes with me building, animating, and rendering our mystical forest Watermill, first of all, a massive congratulations is in order. We took a complex organic environment, made water flow around physical rocks, animated rustling foliage, and exported a stunning professional cinematic loop. If you are just joining us for this masterclass series and want to jump straight into our third major project block, you are in the perfect spot. We are starting a brand new project today, and absolutely no prior assets are required to follow along with this phase. Today we are shifting styles entirely. We are leaving the cozy, soft, organic world of whimsical forests and stepping into the gritty, vibrant, high-contrast world of stylized sci-fi. Over the next 5 episodes, we are going to build a stunning, rain-slicked cyberpunk alleyway. This scene is going to challenge you in completely different ways. Instead of curved, organic trees and soft-running rivers, we are dealing with hard-surface industrial structures, towering metal facades, cluttered electrical wires, glowing neon signage, and highly reflective, wet asphalt roads. This style demands sharp perspective, precise texture mapping, and an advanced understanding of how stylized metallic surfaces and emissive light sources behave in a dark atmospheric environment. We are spending our first full hour on this project today, focusing entirely on the 2D illustration and asset separation phase. We will establish our dramatic low-angle perspective, map out our color keys, paint our metallic textures and neon signs, and organize our canvas layers so our 3D hard surface projection runs flawlessly in the next video. Grab your digital stylus, open up your favorite painting software, and let's get down to business. All right, looking at our blank canvas right now at the 3:15 mark. The very first thing we need to discuss is the core composition and the feeling of verticality. Cyberpunk is all about claustrophobia and immense height. If you paint a cyberpunk alleyway with a standard flat eye-level camera, it is going to feel like a boring city street. We want the viewer to feel tiny, like they are looking up from the gutters at towering oppressive corporate structures. Look at my screen as I lay down our perspective grid. I am setting up a dramatic, low-angle 3-point perspective. The left and right vanishing points are spaced far outside the canvas, but our third vanishing point is positioned high above the frame. This forces all our vertical lines to tilt inward as they go up, creating a sense of massive scale and towering height. Now let's talk about the absolute key to cyberpunk aesthetics, the lighting contrast in our Watermill project. We use soft, warm golden light balanced by cool indigo shadows. In a cyberpunk alleyway, we are playing with high-intensity complementary neon colors in pitch-black darkness. Watch as I flood our base canvas with a very dark, saturated blue-gray tone. We want our shadows to feel heavy, wet, and cold. You can see me blocking in our primary light sources. We don't have a sun or moon lighting this scene. Instead, our lighting is completely driven by emissive objects, flickering neon signs, glowing storefront displays, and warm humming street lamps. This means we have to paint sharp, localized light blooms and highly contrasted specular highlights. Look at how I am sketching out a massive vertical neon sign on the left wall. I am using a vibrant toxic green color, and on the right wall I am sketching a series of smaller glowing red and orange holographic displays. By placing green on one side and red orange on the other, we set up an instant, high, contrast complementary color scheme that makes the alleyway feel incredibly electric and alive. Let's push ahead to the 15:30 mark. Let's talk about painting hard surface metallic textures for 3D projection. This is a completely different technique than painting organic tree bark or stone bricks. Metal doesn't have a soft, diffuse texture. It has high reflectivity and sharp, dramatic value shifts. Watch how I am painting the metal panels of our storefront on the right. I'm using a hard round brush with the opacity linked to pen pressure. To make a surface look metallic, you need to place your absolute darkest values right next to your absolute brightest highlights. I draw a dark, almost black shadow line representing a panel seam, and right next to it, I paint a crisp, pure white specular highlight. Look at the screen right now, instantly. That flat gray block looks like a polished, reflective sheet of steel, but we don't want our cyberpunk world to look clean and sterile. This is a lived-in industrial city, which means we need grit. At the 22:15 mark, you can see me adding layers of grime, rust, and oil leaks. I select a textured splatter brush and paint patches of warm, reddish-brown rust along the bottom edges of the metal walls where moisture would naturally collect. I also use a soft airbrush set to multiply to paint dark, greasy drips leaking down from the ventilation pipes. This combination of high-tech metal and low-life grime is the absolute heart of the cyberpunk aesthetic, and painting these details directly onto our textures now will save us massive amounts of time in our 3D software later. If you are struggling to get that perfect balance of clean metal and gritty rust, or if your hard surface lines are looking shaky and unprofessional, do not panic. You can jump directly to the 28 to 40 mark of this video, where I give you a quick 5-minute troubleshooting guide on how to use the line guide tools and custom grunge stencils in your painting software to get razor-sharp industrial details in seconds. Let's move forward to the 33 to 15 mark. We need to tackle the absolute most challenging element in this entire illustration, the wet asphalt road. Because it is always raining in Cyberpunk, our ground needs to act like a dark mirror. But painting reflection details on a flat texture for 3D projection is incredibly tricky. If we paint static, perfect reflections of the neon signs directly onto the ground, the illusion will instantly shatter when our 3D camera moves, because the reflections won't shift dynamically with our perspective. To solve this, look at how I am structuring the road painting. I am dividing the asphalt into 3 independent visual layers. First, we have the base road surface, a dark, highly textured asphalt material painted with rough charcoal brushes. Second, we have our water puddles. I am painting these as flat, sharp-edged shapes with a slightly lighter value and completely smooth texture, representing pools of water. Third, we have the neon color glare. Watch my screen at the 38 to 45 mark as I use a soft, low opacity airbrush with a vibrant cyan and magenta color. I am gently dusting these colors across the road surface, following the direction of our perspective lines. I am not painting detailed, mirrored reflections of the letters of our signs. I am simply painting the diffuse color bleed of the light hitting the wet ground. This allows us to maintain that gorgeous, colorful, painterly glow while keeping our texture map flexible enough to handle camera movement in 3D without looking fake. Let's push ahead to the 42 to 10 mark. We are entering our critical asset separation and layer organization phase. Just like our previous projects, if we do not structure our digital file perfectly right now, our 3D projection phase will be an absolute nightmare. In a cyberpunk alleyway, we have layers upon layers of overlapping clutter, and we must isolate them to prevent severe texture stretching. Look at my layer panel on the screen. I am grouping our assets into 4 distinct depth layers. First, we have our extreme foreground clutter, dangling electrical cables, thick industrial pipes, and a rusty metal fire escape ladder on the left. We must paint these on completely isolated layers with clean transparency around them. If we paint these cables directly onto the background walls, our 3D projection will stretch the cable textures across the building facades, destroying the scene. Second, we have our mid-ground structures, the main storefronts, the hanging neon signs, and the air conditioning units. Third, we have the background skyscrapers and massive towers that frame the top of our alleyway. Finally, we have our atmospheric layer, the rising steam from the sewer grates, the rain streaks, and the distant fog. Watch closely at the 49 to 30 mark as I isolate the massive glowing neon sign on the left. I am copying the green text onto its own layer, filling the background behind it with a solid black color block, and naming the layer clearly by keeping the glowing neon text physically separated from the dark wall behind it. We will be able to turn this sign into a real, glowing 3D light source that casts beautiful green light across our environment in episode 9. If you want to skip the tedious process of organizing, masking, and painting all these complex industrial layers from scratch, you can jump directly to the 3 o'clock mark, where I show you how to download my fully prepped, high-resolution layered project file for free, so you can jump straight into the 3D modeling and projection phase with me in the next video. We are passing the 7 o'clock mark, and our final canvas is completely painted, organized, and exported into high-resolution PNG maps. Take a look at the final master painting on the screen right now. The colors are incredibly vibrant. The high contrast lighting is moody and atmospheric. The metallic surfaces look cold and wet, and our depth layers are perfectly structured. This brings us to the end of episode 11. We have successfully built the creative artistic foundation for our Cyberpunk Alleyway, but a gorgeous 2D illustration is just the start. How do we take these sharp, vertical buildings, overlapping pipes, and hanging neon signs and project them onto 3D space without losing our precise hand-painted perspective? That is exactly what we are going to conquer in the next session. In episode 12, we are jumping into our 3D software to build our low-poly sci-fi proxy models and set up our advanced hard surface projection materials. If you are ready to see this neon alleyway gain physical depth, you can jump directly to the next video right now. Thank you so much for spending this hour painting with me. Keep refining your metallic reflections, and I will see you in the next episode. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to episode 12 of our massive 25-part masterclass series on bringing hand-painted digital illustrations to life using only Procreate on your iPad. If you spent the last episode with me painting our gritty, rain-slicked Cyberpunk Alleyway, first of all, your canvases should look absolutely incredible. We mapped out a dramatic low-angle three-point perspective, established our moody, wet shadow color keys, and painted high-contrast neon signs with sharp metallic surfaces. If you are just joining us for this project block and want to learn how to animate your paintings from scratch in Procreate, you are in the perfect spot. Go ahead and download our prepped, layered Cyberpunk canvas from the link in the description below, so you can follow along with today's animation setup. Today, we are shifting our workflow entirely. We are leaving the static painting process behind and diving deep into Procreate's animation assist. Many digital artists think Procreate is just for static sketches, but its built-in animation engine is incredibly powerful once you understand how to use layer groups, holding frames, and onion skinning to create seamless hand-drawn loops. Over the next hour, we are going to set up our animation timeline, isolate our foreground and background elements, animate a realistic organic flicker on our neon signs, and sketch out rising steam from our street vents frame by frame. Grab your Apple Pencil, open up your canvas in Procreate, and let's get down to business, all right. Looking at our Procreate canvas right now at the 3:15 mark. The very first thing we need to do is activate our animation environment. Tap on the wrench icon in the top left corner of your screen, navigate to the canvas menu, and toggle on Animation Assist. Instantly, you will see a brand new timeline bar appear at the bottom of your screen, along with a play button and settings options. But if you look closely at your timeline right now, your entire illustration probably looks like a chaotic mess, or parts of your alleyway have completely disappeared. Do not panic. This happens because Procreate's Animation Assist treats every single individual layer and layer group in your layers panel as a single frame in your animation. Because we spent the last episode organizing our digital file into a structured hierarchy of foreground elements, midground structures, and background towers, Procreate is trying to read those depth layers as a sequence of moving frames. To fix this, we need to set up our holding frames. Look at my screen at the 8:45 mark as I open the layers panel. We have our background layer, the massive looming corporate skyscrapers and the dark night sky. Since this background should never change or disappear throughout our animation, we want it to stay locked in place. In your timeline at the bottom, tap on the very first frame representing your background and toggle on the switch that says background. Look at what happens to your canvas. That background layer instantly locks itself to the screen, staying visible across every single frame we draw. Now let's do the exact same thing for our foreground clutter. Go to the top of your layers panel, locate your extreme foreground layer group containing the dangling electrical wires and the rusty fire escape ladder on the left in the timeline. Tap on the frame representing this group and toggle on the switch that says foreground. Now our background and foreground are perfectly locked. We have built our physical stage, and we can animate our midground alleyway assets freely without having to redraw the sky or the wires ever again. If you are looking at your screen right now and your background is bleeding through your buildings, or if your layers are still displaying in a completely scrambled order in the timeline, your layer stack is likely out of order. You can jump directly to the 14:30 mark of this video where I show you a quick 2-minute troubleshooting guide on how to clean up your layer nesting hierarchy so Procreate reads your canvas perfectly. Let's push ahead to the 18:15 mark. Let's tackle the absolute signature of any cyberpunk scene, the flickering neon signage. In the last episode, we painted a massive toxic green vertical sign on the left wall and a series of smaller glowing red and orange holographic displays on the right. We want these lights to feel electric, erratic, and alive. To animate a realistic light flicker, we don't need to paint 50 different frames. We can achieve a beautiful, organic effect using just 4 simple frame states. First, let's locate the group containing our toxic green neon text layer. Duplicate this group twice. Now, on the first duplicated frame, we want to simulate an electrical surge. Use the hue, saturation, and brightness adjustments in your adjustments menu to slightly boost the saturation and brightness of the green glow. Next, use a soft airbrush set to add or color dodge on a new layer clip to the text and paint a bright localized light bloom. On our second duplicated frame, we want the sign to go completely dead to simulate a short circuit. Go to your adjustments, drop the saturation to 0, and use the curves tool to pull the brightness down until the sign looks like a cold, gray glass tube. At the 26 to 40 mark, watch how I am placing these frames on our timeline. If you place a bright frame, a dead frame, and a normal frame right next to each other, the flicker will happen too quickly and look like a digital glitch. We want it to feel heavy and analog. I am holding the normal frame for 8 frames, inserting a single dead frame, then a bright surge frame, then another dead frame, and finally returning to our normal glowing state. Look at the play button on the screen as I test the loop. The green neon sign is beautifully snapping, surging, and short-circuiting, casting dynamic light changes across our wet metallic wall textures. Let's move forward to the 33 to 15 mark. We need to animate one of the most challenging, organic elements in our scene, the rising steam from the sewer grates. Because cyberpunk is all about heavy industry and cold rain, adding warm. Rising steam from the gutters adds incredible atmosphere and a sense of temperature contrast to our artwork. To animate steam, we are going to use traditional frame-by-frame cell animation. Tap on the settings icon in your animation assist bar and turn on onion skinning. Onion skinning allows you to see a faint, semi-transparent ghost of your previous and next frames, which is the ultimate guide to drawing smooth, continuous motion. Set your onion skin frames to 2 and drop the opacity to about 30%. At the 38 to 45 mark, you can see me creating a new empty layer group in our mid-ground timeline. Grab a soft, textured pastel or chalk brush with the opacity set to about 40%. On frame 1, paint a tiny soft wisp of steam rising just an inch above the sewer grate. Move to frame 2. You will see the faint outline of your first stroke. Now paint a slightly larger, wider cloud of steam just a bit higher than the first one as you move to frame 3 and 4. Follow the natural physics of steam as it rises. It needs to expand, slow down, and lose density. If you draw your steam shapes the exact same size on every frame, it will look like a solid cloud sliding upward. Instead, make the base of the steam narrow where it escapes the grate, and make the top of the steam bloom outward and fade to complete transparency using the soft eraser tool. By frame 8, your steam should dissolve completely into the dark air of our alleyway. If your hand-drawn steam is looking too jittery, or if the motion feels mechanical and jumpy instead of floating like a fluid gas, do not panic. You can jump directly to the 44 to 20 mark of this video, where I show you how to use Procreate's Liquify tool set to push and twirl with low pressure to gently warp your steam frames, creating buttery smooth fluid dynamics in just a few strokes. Let's push ahead to the 50 to 10 mark. We are entering our final refinement phase for episode 12. We have our flickering green neon lights on the left, our blinking red holograms on the right, and our warm steam rising beautifully from the wet asphalt ground. Open your animation assist settings one more time. Let's adjust our frames per second FPS by default. Procreate might set your playback speed to 15 FPS. If you play a cyberpunk loop at 15 frames per second, your organic steam and fast neon flickers are going to look incredibly choppy and laggy. We want a smooth cinematic sweep. Slide your frame rate slider up to exactly 24 frames per second. Look at the master preview on my screen at the 4 o'clock mark. The animation is incredibly fluid. The rapid electrical short circuits on our signs feel incredibly snappy and intense. The ambient glow from the green neon is pulsing beautifully against our wet metallic storefront panels, and the soft steam rises with organic weight and vanishes seamlessly. Our entire static cyberpunk alleyway has officially transformed into a living, breathing, hand-drawn cinematic animation. This brings us to the end of episode 12. We have successfully conquered the core animation timeline, established our foreground and background holding frames, masterclass level light flickers, and traditional frame-by-frame organic steam physics. But our cyberpunk loop is far from complete. To make our alleyway feel truly wet and rain-slicked, we need to paint falling rain streaks, and most importantly, animate the neon color reflections shifting dynamically inside our water puddles. That is exactly what we are going to conquer in our next session. In episode 13, we are going to dive into advanced reflection animation, painting rain impact ripples, and setting up color shifting light overlays. If you are ready to see this wet alleyway glisten under the rain, you can jump directly to the next video right now. Thank you so much for spending this hour painting and animating with me in Procreate. Keep refining your frame transitions, and I will see you in the next episode.